Heard the world was supposed to end yesterday. We've had lots of those predictions throughout through the centuries. Was any of you kind of like holding off on homework Friday night just in case the world ended on Saturday so you wouldn't have to do any of this? I know if I was in college, I probably would have been like, that might not be so bad. I have a big paper due on Monday, so the world can go ahead and come to an end. But anyways, another time pass where someone predicts the end of the world. I'm sure we'll have another one next month where someone has forecasted the end of the world, and the media takes those and pays great attention to them. But I do think it ties in a little bit with. I'd like to try and tie it in a little bit with our readings, because I think when things like that happen, I think it helps, it does cause some people to say, well, the world is never going to end. I've got more time, right? Jesus is very clear throughout all of the Gospels, and the church is clear that the world will come to an end at some point, right? And Jesus, in fact, throughout the Gospels is encouraging a sort of holy urgency, right? That we need to make a decision. That we need to start living a certain way now, like not tomorrow. That in fact, one of the Old Testament readings from the book of Sirach says, don't delay your conversion day to day. Do it now, right? We hear in our first reading today from the prophet Isaiah. It says, seek the Lord while he may be found, right? Don't wait until after the world ends. Do not wait later, until then to then make a decision. Because at one point, when the world comes to an end, our life, our decisions, everything that we've done, the good and the bad, will be locked in place. There's no more, I want to switch sides now, once the world ends. And so these fake predictions, I think, give people that impression of, people keep saying this, just like Jesus. I don't know who said it this time. I didn't even look it up. But the guy that said it was going to end September 23rd, and Jesus says it's going to end sometime, it's all just a bunch of hogwash, just throw it all over there. I'm just going to keep living my life the way I want to. I have no sense of urgency. And we see that in the gospel. Right? I think we see people that don't have that sense of urgency. They keep just kind of pushing things off. But the mercy of Christ, the mercy of God is also on display, because there's this beautiful interaction. I love the conversation that takes place where Jesus, essentially coming to us, those who have not committed maybe yet particularly, but all of us, and asking us a simple question. He says, why do you stand here idle all day? Why do you stand here idle all day? And I think that's a question, that's a great question, right? The people that have not committed their life to Christ are in many ways standing around idle, even if they're doing 4,000 projects. And I'm doing all these things. I have this activism, this spirit of, I got to keep accomplishing things. But there's an idleness to one's soul, a boredom that just sets in, right? There's this idleness. I'm not committing my life to something eternal. I'm sitting on the fence. I'm waiting, right? So Jesus comes to us and all those in the world, comes to all of us in the interior of our hearts all the time, and is kind of asking that question, kind of seeking to stir things up and saying, why be idle? Why be idle? Now, that's not talking about rest. God, it's not like Christ is saying, like, don't take a nap. Christ is saying, spiritually speaking, why are you idle? Why are you just kind of sitting still, churning water, not making a commitment, not going this way or that way, but just kind of waiting and doing nothing, right? And I love the line, look at the answer, because no one has hired us. Because no one has hired us. And I think in some way, this is the challenge for us who are here tonight, right? I think there's a challenge and an invitation to those who, for all of our shortcomings, we still would say we're striving to be workers in the vineyard, right? I think we can all say that we're trying to do that. We're trying to be workers in the vineyard. So this question, these people that are not in the vineyard working yet, the people that are sitting on the fence, are saying no one has hired us. I think that in some ways is kind of a recognition that we are not hiring, we are not drawing into the vineyard our brothers and sisters who are sitting around idle all day, right? Not committing their life to anything. We are not going out and making the case to them of like, hey, come with us, come into the vineyard, start working, it's great. There's a lot of satisfaction and peace and joy that happens when you work in the vineyard, right? Alongside the vineyard owner. No one has hired us, they say, right? So I think we have to do that sort of reflection. If all I'm thinking of is my relationship is just about me and Jesus, that there's no sort of, that the other people around me, that my other DePauw students, or, all of the poor, the people in our community, that if I just think it's just me and Jesus, then I'm not thinking about trying to draw other people in. But Christ says that's part of our call as Christians, is to go out and hire the other people, bring them with us to the vineyard, right? And so we pray, I think, on multiple fronts to have that holy sense of urgency in our lives, to not just sit around and be idle, spiritually speaking, to be wrestling with God, to be growing, to be searching, to be seeking, to try and draw closer to Christ and be in that relationship with Christ, but also have that sort of recognition that I'm also here not just to be in relationship with Christ, but to help draw other people into that vineyard as well. So maybe we exhibit all the joy and the virtues and all the goodness that comes to us. Maybe show that off. Maybe be on display about what it's like to be a worker in the vineyard so that other people see us and see that we found something, and instead of sitting around idle all day at DePauw, come to you and say, where does that come from? I want to work in that vineyard that you're working in as well.